Well, hello and welcome to this English lesson where I'm going to help you learn how to describe places in English. I have a number of English words that I'm going to teach you. I try to find the words that aren't at well, let me put it this way. I try to find the words that are very common in English for describing things like places, but that I think maybe you haven't heard before. Because I know as you learn English, you probably learn the most common words to describe places and people and things. And these are kind of like the next level of words for you. Hopefully, you'll learn some new ones today, and hopefully, you'll enjoy this English lesson where I'm going to help you learn how to describe places. So, cozy is, in my opinion, a very Canadian word. It's a very much, in my mind, associated with a place that's warm. That's warm when it's cold outside, but it doesn't have to mean this. But my feeling of cozy would be to have a cup of hot tea and to be sitting in a room that has a fireplace. That would be the Canadian interpretation of what a cozy place is. But cozy can be almost anything. Some students, when they go to university, have a small dorm room, but they try to make it cozy by putting in comfortable furniture and by decorating it in a way that makes it warm and inviting. So cozy is simply any place that makes you feel relaxed and comfortable. Any of you that read books, the place where you go to read a book in your house is probably a very cozy place. But definitely for people who live in a country where there's winter, if they think of the word cozy, if they think of a cozy place, they're probably thinking of a warm place where they can go after being outside in the cold weather. So we use some adjectives to describe people, and we also use them to describe places. So you can say that a place is friendly. This is kind of weird. When I was teaching English a long time ago to a friend of mine from France, she didn't understand why we would say that a place is friendly. But if you go to a store and if the people there are friendly, you could also say that the store is friendly. So if you look here, this lady is selling flowers. That's not Jen, by the way. That's not Jen in the picture. It's a different person selling flowers. But this looks like a very friendly place. It looks like a very friendly place to go and ask about flowers and buy flowers. So we can use the word friendly to describe a place as well. I like to buy things from friendly places. In fact, the friendlier a place is, the more likely I am to be a regular customer. Homey. So there's two actual meanings to this word and two spellings. Sorry, there's one meaning to this word. There's another spelling to talk about a person. But this is a word when we say homey, we mean to make something comfortable, to make a place like home, okay? So if you move into a new apartment and that apartment is empty, it's not homey. One of the first things people do when they move into a new place is they try to make it their own. They try to make it as homey as possible. They will move in their furniture. They will hang things on the wall, a painting maybe that they like, and they will try to create a really homey space for themselves. So homey, for me, when I think about, oh, it's just a really homey space or a homey place, I think of a comfortable couch. I think of maybe pillows that I like, maybe some posters or paintings on the wall that I like. That would make me feel at home. And when you feel at home, then you would describe a place as being very homey, which is kind of the opposite of dingy. A place that is, well, okay, not really the opposite. A dingy place is very much a place that is messy. A dingy place will smell. A dingy place will have stuff, garbage on the floor. A dingy place needs to be cleaned up. In a dingy apartment or a dingy house, the wallpaper might be coming off the walls, like in this picture. And it's just a place that's not homey at all. It's definitely a place that is messy, a place that probably smells, and a place that is run down. That's another way to describe it. So sometimes people will see an apartment they can rent on the internet. And then when they go to look at it, the pictures on the internet looked really homey and cozy. And when they get there, it's actually quite dingy. It maybe doesn't have very much natural light. So it's kind of dark and smelly and dingy. Let's see here. And then we also use some of the same words to describe places as people as well. I think I mentioned that already. You can say that a place is beautiful. You can say that a place is gorgeous. So you'll see in this picture, this is just a very beautiful part of this city. So the same way you might describe a woman as being beautiful, you can also describe a place as being beautiful. In the same way as you might say, maybe your favorite actress you think is gorgeous, you can also describe a city or a place that you are looking at as gorgeous. So just very, very pleasing and attractive and pleasing to the eye is what you would say. So a lot of times when I make videos on my farm, people will say that the landscape behind me is beautiful, or that there was a gorgeous view of the farm when I made that lesson. So using some of the same adjectives that we would use to describe people, we can also describe places. And last week we did a lesson on dangerous things. And so places can also be dangerous. I hope that I don't know where this is. This is just a picture I found on the internet. So I don't know if this is a dangerous place. Hopefully you don't live there. Hopefully one of you watching doesn't say, hey, that's my house, and it's not dangerous. I took this picture because it's dark and it's there's no people around. So when you go to large cities, there are sometimes places in those large cities where at night it's very dark. There aren't very many people around, and it can be very dangerous. So you could say, oh, we went on a vacation and we were in a certain city. I don't want to say a name. And at night we went out and we got lost and we ended up in a dangerous part of the city and someone stole my wallet. That could happen. That could happen to you in Toronto. I know sometimes people think Canada is this beautiful, amazing place with no crime, and that's simply not true. There are dangerous places in Canada as well. So, but yes, things can be dangerous, usually at night, in some parts of some cities. Vast. So let me make this a little bit bigger. So when you describe a place as being vast, it's just really, really big. It means that you have trouble seeing all of it without turning your head. So you look this way and the place is so vast, you have to kind of turn your head to take it all in order to see it all. I believe this is the Grand Canyon. I'm checking my notes here. It is a place that is very, very vast. You can't just look straight ahead and see everything. You have to look all around you because it's so big and wide, and vast would be the word we would use. Let me make my slide a little smaller. I have a few slides that are a little more on the calm side. So when you describe a place as tranquil, it means that it's quiet, it's enjoyable. If you think about a busy office building where you work, it's not tranquil. It's probably loud and there's phones ringing and everyone is working hard. But if you think of a really nice island, maybe in the Caribbean or the Caribbean, there's two ways to say it, or in the Mediterranean, maybe there's a really quiet place where you can go for a vacation, maybe in the southern part of your country, and maybe on the ocean. And we would describe that place as tranquil. We might also say it's serene. Although when we use the word serene, we're usually talking about a place where it's very calm. Like if you describe a lake as serene, there's not very many waves on the lake. If you describe a place where you are as serene, it's usually quiet, but also lacks motion, okay? But serene and tranquil can be used somewhat interchangeably. And then we, of course, have the word peaceful, just the standard word for describing a place that is calm, that is soothing, that makes you feel at peace. So if you were to go and sit by water, generally when I go to the lake or down to the river, I find those places to be very peaceful. They are places where I just relax when I'm there, because it's not necessarily quiet, but I hear nature and I hear water, and I don't hear traffic. I don't hear people. I don't hear kids fighting or yelling at each other, which sometimes happens in some people's houses, maybe in mine once in a while as well. Let's see here. Let's finish with this and then we'll jump into some questions. So open. When a place is open, it means that there's no buildings. It means that there's mostly nature or farmland. So when you go out into the country, you could describe it as being very open. You could say if you lived in the province of Saskatchewan in Canada, it's very open. When you look in every direction, there are no mountains, there are no skyscrapers, there are no buildings. It's just very flat and very open. So the open plains, we would call it. In the Midwest of the United States and in the Midwest of Canada, it's very, very open. The opposite of open would be claustrophobic. This word is really hard to say, but if you describe a place as being claustrophobic, it means that the walls are really close together and the spaces between buildings might be very narrow. You can see this alleyway is very narrow and it's not very straight and it's a little bit dark. This would be a very claustrophobic place to be. You can also say that you are claustrophobic. If a person is claustrophobic, it means they don't like being in small spaces. I don't think I would be a very good person to be on a submarine. If I was in the Navy and they said, do you want to go on a submarine? I would say, no, I'm really claustrophobic. I don't like being in really small places. It just makes me not scared. I'm just uncomfortable. But you can describe a place as being claustrophobic. This alleyway, this is a claustrophobic alleyway. It's very, very claustrophobic. And let me just check something here. Yeah, so claustrophobia is a fear of small places. So definitely you can feel claustrophobic. You can even feel claustrophobic in a crowd, by the way, if there's too many people around you. So this happens in almost every country. There are places that are really cool to visit, and eventually those places can become very touristy. If you go to Niagara Falls, it's very touristy at certain parts of the year. There are a lot of stores that specialize in selling things to tourists. There's a lot of places where things are very expensive because they know tourists have lots of money. In fact, here's a funny story. If you go to a restaurant in Hamilton, which is a city close to me, it will probably cost you about $20 for a meal. If you go to the same restaurant in Niagara Falls, it will probably cost you about $27 for the same meal, because Niagara Falls is very touristy. Okay, there's lots of lights at night. There's lots of crowds of people walking around. There's a lot of souvenir shops where people sell t-shirts and little Canadian flags. So it's very, very touristy. I think that's the only place close to me that is touristy. Toronto actually isn't very touristy. There's not really any tourist attractions in Toronto though. Like the whole city is a tourist attraction, whereas the actual Niagara Falls is the tourist attraction. Let me see here. Chaotic. If you describe a place as being chaotic, in my mind, when I think about chaotic, I think about a city with lots of traffic in the downtown. If you go to downtown Toronto, it can be very chaotic. There's taxis, there's Ubers, there's streetcars, there's the metro, there's the GO train, there's people honking, there's crowds of people waiting to cross the street. It's very, very busy and it can be very, very chaotic. So when something is chaotic, it lacks order. So when something is very organized, it's very orderly. But when it's not, it can be chaotic. So the city can definitely be described as chaotic. Expensive. I think this is Monaco. You can go to places that are expensive. As I mentioned earlier, Niagara Falls is actually kind of expensive compared to the rest of Canada. When you go to Niagara Falls, you tend to pay more for certain things. Even gas is a little more expensive for your car in Niagara Falls. And I'm pretty sure most major cities have an area where wealthy people like to go. So they have nicer restaurants and nicer stores and shops, and it's very, very expensive. And of course, there's also places that are inexpensive. So if a place is inexpensive, it means it costs less money. Camping is usually inexpensive, although camping has become a little more expensive each year here in Canada because they want to use the money to protect our parks, okay? So camping is inexpensive compared to going to Monaco, but camping can be still a little bit expensive. But you can certainly describe a trip to a certain place as being inexpensive. Like you could say, oh, we went to London and it was very inexpensive. It wasn't very expensive at all. It was actually quite cheap. I think that right now, if you were to travel, if you were allowed to, it's very inexpensive. Plane tickets right now in Canada are very, very cheap because most places would love tourists to start visiting, although it's hard to get back into Canada without quarantining right now. You could describe a place as being boring. So this street is probably usually bustling with people. This place is probably usually a lot of fun and exciting, but you can see the little pylons and the gates there because this street is closed. There are many places in the world right now where if you visited, they are very boring, okay? It's very boring to go to downtown Toronto right now because Toronto's in lockdown and there's nothing to do. So it's very boring. It's actually somewhat boring to go to Niagara Falls. The water is still going over the falls, but the rest of the city is closed. All of the stores and shops are closed, so it's rather boring. So there are many places right now that are a little bit boring in the world. Charming. When you describe a place as charming, it usually has some history to it. If you go to Quebec City, which is in the province of Quebec, it's one of our older cities, and it has really old buildings in the downtown area. So if you go to an old city in North America or an older city in Europe, you'll see places that are very charming. If you go to an older city in any country, you will find areas where you just feel a sense of history when you are there and you see older things, and it's just very cute and very charming. So I used the word bustling once already. When you go to a large city, especially if you're in the area where people need to get on the subway or the metro, especially if it's after work, it might be bustling. When it's bustling, when a place is bustling, there's lots of people and there's you can hear people talking and you can hear people moving around and walking, and everyone's trying to get somewhere. When you go to a sports game, when the game is over, I would describe the streets outside the arena or the stadium as being, the streets are bustling with people. Okay, so it's just a lot of people all kind of moving in one direction. And you could also use the word crowded, okay? Some people, when they travel, they find some places to be crowded. In fact, our school went on a trip a number of years ago to Europe, and they visited a number of European cities. And they went during a time when it was very busy. And so they found everything to be very crowded. Restaurants were crowded, cities were crowded. When they went to tourist attractions, they had to wait in line because it was so crowded. The Eiffel Tower, when they went up, was crowded. There were so many people who were there. And then we have the word cosmopolitan. When you describe a place as being cosmopolitan, what you usually mean is that many people from many different countries who speak many different languages are all living in the same area. The best example I can give is this. The Canadian city of Montreal is very cosmopolitan. It has English-speaking people and French-speaking people, but it also has a lot of people from many other countries in the world. And so you will have many different restaurants, many different types of food in Montreal. You will have many different, you'll hear people speaking different languages. It's probably the city in Canada that has the highest number of people from different parts of the world, all living and working together. So we would say it's very cosmopolitan. If you went to Montreal and you were craving food from your home country, you would probably be able to find a restaurant there that makes it, and you would find someone who was originally from your country who owns that restaurant. It's a very cosmopolitan city. So picturesque, when you describe a place as being picturesque, this one's easy to remember because it simply means a place where you just want to take a picture of it, or it looks like a beautiful picture. When I look at the river, this morning I looked out the window at the river on my farm and it was very picturesque. The water was very calm. The trees all have leaves on them now, and it's just a beautiful thing to see. It's very picturesque. It means it's worthy of having a picture taken, or it can mean it just looks like a picture, like it looks like nature can look like a piece of art sometimes. And then we have run down, which I mentioned earlier when I talked about dingy. When a place is run down, it means that things are starting to fall apart. So sometimes people will go on a trip and they'll say, oh, the trip was lovely, but we went to a restaurant and it was kind of run down. Like the tables were falling apart, and you can go to places where things need to be fixed and no one is fixing them. Okay, so you can go to places that are run down, and even parts of buildings can be run down. I have a friend that lives in an apartment building in Toronto, and it's a very nice apartment building, but the basement is very run down where they do their laundry and park their cars. So it needs to be fixed. Magical. When people go to Disneyland or Disney World, or when people visit castles, sometimes they describe it as magical. It was a magical place, meaning that it was like there was magic in the air. You know what magic is? Like when you pull a rabbit out of a hat, it's a magic trick. So some people, when they go to a place that makes them forget about the real world, they might say that it was magical. By the way, I would love to visit this castle. I believe this is in Germany. That would be a very magical place to visit. You can also use the word enchanting, very similar to magical. You can see here that this road, the trees, it's very enchanting. It almost has like a magic type feeling to it. It feels like this is maybe from a story where magic is real. So we would describe it as enchanting, something that is just really nice to look at and feels magical. I'll use that word again. Let's see here. Traditional. Some places can be very traditional. So in some places, in some cities in Canada, there are laws about what people can do when they fix their houses, because the city wants them to keep things very traditional. So there are historical areas or places where if you replace the door, you have to put a traditional door back on the house. If you replace the windows or the shutters, they have to be traditional. So there are some places where the government has decided to preserve how things look, maybe a certain street or neighborhood, and then you would say it's very traditional. Secluded. So this word came up earlier in the lesson. When a place is secluded, it means there's not very many people around. In Canada, there are many secluded places that you can go to. You can go to the northern part of any province in Canada, and you will be secluded. It's very secluded, okay? Northern Ontario is very secluded. You could go so far north that you could find a lake and you would be the only person in that, like canoeing on that lake. It's very, very secluded if you go really, really far north. It's also really cold, by the way. And then we also have remote. Okay, so secluded and remote, kind of related. If you live in a remote area, it means that it's a long walk to see one of your neighbors. Okay, if you live somewhere that's very remote, you probably can't see any other houses. Okay, I described earlier my farm is somewhat remote. That's not exactly true. I have a neighbor across the road. I can see my neighbors quite easily. They're about a kilometer each way. But if I lived somewhere where I needed to drive 10 kilometers before I would see another person's house, I would say that that area is remote, very, very remote. Deserted. When a place is deserted, it means there's no people. So it's kind of the opposite of crowded or the opposite of bustling. So if you go to a place, right now, many places are deserted. Niagara Falls is deserted right now. There's no people there. You can also use it to describe a building that is just not used anymore. So it's a deserted building. And you can see it has the word desert in it, right? Desert is like a place that's just sand and very, very hot, and no, very, very, very few people. So you can say, like we use this word really lightly as well. Like you could say, were there a lot of people at the store? No, it was deserted. And that basically means you were the only customer. And again, if I went to Niagara Falls right now, because of the lockdown, it's probably quite deserted right now, I would say. Scenic. So whenever I think of the word scenic, the places I think of are places in Canada and in the United States that look beautiful in the fall, okay? So there is a road close to me, and it's just very scenic in the fall. When you drive down that road, the leaves are turning color on the trees, and around every corner, it's just beautiful. Like it just looks amazing. It's very scenic. We sometimes use this word to describe, when you look at a city, if you go up a mountain at night and look at a city, you might have a very scenic view. Or if you live in an apartment building and you can see nature, maybe you live close to the edge of the city, you could say that you have a scenic view. So scenic is similar to picturesque, very similar, like just a place that's beautiful to look at, very scenic. Unspoiled would be any place that has not been touched by human beings. So there are many places in Canada that are unspoiled. I'm sure there are many places in countries like Russia that are unspoiled. If you go out into the wilderness, you can find places where humans have not built any houses. There are no roads. It is completely unspoiled. Noisy. So this is a pretty simple one. I'm sure most of you know this. If you decide to go somewhere, it can be very noisy. It's not nice when Jen and I stayed at a hotel once, and the hotel was very noisy. But you can also have noisy streets. You can have a lot of honking, a lot of yelling, a lot of people talking. And then clean. So some cities are very clean. I believe this is in Singapore. I believe this might be one of the cleanest places in the world. I think it's one of the places that has many laws to keep cities clean, to keep city streets clean. But some places just aren't clean. You would then describe them as dirty or dingy. I guess dirty would be the best. Yeah, we went on a trip, but it was just really, the city was really dirty. Like there was a lot of pollution and trash and garbage and those kinds of things. But you can describe a place as being very, very clean. Awe-inspiring. So generally, when I think about awe-inspiring, I think of things like Niagara Falls would be awe-inspiring. It's also breathtaking. So anything that makes you just stop and look at something and feel amazed, or to be in awe is the other way of saying it. So in the United States, there are many places that are just awe-inspiring. I actually don't think this is in the US though. I think this is in the country of Jordan. But there are many places in the world where the mountains or cliffs or rock formations or canyons or fjords, there are many things that are awe-inspiring, where you look at it and you just are amazed that it exists in the world and that it wasn't made by people. That can be very awe-inspiring as well. And then I use the word breathtaking. I'm sure there are many places in the world you would like to visit, because you've seen photos and it just looks amazing. It just looks breathtaking. The mountains, the Rocky Mountains, are breathtaking. I have only seen them from one side. I would love to see them in the United States and in Canada, but some of the mountain peaks are breathtaking. When you look at them, it doesn't actually take your breath away, but it kind of takes your breath away because it's so, so beautiful to see. And there are places that are famous. I think Las Vegas is maybe one of the most famous places in the world. So if you ask someone, where would you like to go on a trip? Someone could say, oh, I'd like to go to a few famous places. I'd like to go to Hollywood. I'd like to go to Las Vegas. I'd like to go to Times Square in New York City. Those are all famous places in the United States. A lot of the famous places are in the US, but I think that's because of their television and film industry. We get to see little glimpses of these famous places. Quaint. So a place can be quaint as well. So I would say quaint is very similar to charming. When a place is quaint, it has a little bit of an older feel to it. It's very cute. It's very, like when I always think of like older cities like Quebec City, where the streets are a little narrower. There's lots of places to sit, and there's really old, cute buildings. I would say that it is quaint. Often when I'm watching a TV show from Britain, sometimes they'll go to quaint little villages in Britain where the houses are older and the streets are older and there's a lot of cobblestone roads and brick, and it's just very quaint. So memorable. So we talked about this one earlier. When you go somewhere and it's just a place where you have really good memories, where you saw things and you had a good time, you would describe it as memorable. If you visit places in the world, like if you went to Egypt, it's probably very memorable. If you visited, let's see here, if you visited some cool city like Singapore, it's probably very memorable. If you visited Canada, I'm sure it would be very, very memorable. So when a place is memorable, it means that you enjoyed it and you really liked it, and it was just easy to remember those feelings and that experience. And then thriving. So I used this word in a lesson when I talked about a tree on my farm on my other channel a few days ago. I said the tree wasn't thriving. When something thrives, it means it's healthy and growing and doing well. So many of the trees on our property are thriving, but one tree isn't thriving. So I have to kind of chop it down. I will plant another one or two. But when you describe a place as thriving, you could say, oh, there's, if you go to the city, it's a thriving city. Toronto is a thriving city. There are new people moving to Toronto all the time. There are people who immigrate to Canada and live in Toronto. It's a bustling, growing, thriving city. It's very healthy. Everything's getting built nicely. It's definitely a thriving city. And then modern, I think this might be Shanghai. I'm not sure. I should have made better notes about where the pictures were from. So correct me if I'm wrong, but there are some very modern cities in the world. Some countries are thriving and they are developing large cities very quickly, very modern cities. That means that the city is less than 20 or 30 years old. Well, it's older than that, but it's expanded rapidly recently, and it's very, very modern. It has modern roads, modern public transit like subways, and good train service, and just really cool new buildings in its downtown core. A very modern place to live. And then trendy. So when a place is trendy, it means it's hip or cool, or a place where a lot of people want to go. I didn't purposely put Toronto here, but when I did a search for the top 10 trendiest cities in the world, Toronto, I think, was number 5 on the one list. So trendy is it just means cool. If my clothes are not trendy. When your clothes are trendy, it means that you're following some of the latest fashion and you have newer clothes. My watch is not trendy. But you can also use trendy to talk about a city. So a city that is trendy has cool restaurants. And if you wanted to see live bands, if you wanted to hear live music, there's cool places to go and to hear the most recent bands that are popular in the world. So Toronto, according to the list I read, the fifth most trendiest city in the world, which I thought was pretty cool.